Hello, I'm Spaztastic. Welcome to Spaztastic's Unemployment Tube. Today I'm going to talk about shortwave radio. As weird as that is. Now I'm basically going to darken out my face by doing this because the camera's got autofocus. But yeah, this is a shortwave radio receiver, not a particularly good one, and I'm not really going to look at this one too much. If you want me to, I'll be more than happy to, but it's not a really great shortwave radio receiver. But anyhow, I'm just using it because it has a little graphic on it and it shows you all the different little bands. Since I've had really nothing to do and no incentive to go to bed early, I've been sticking up the aerial on my Kato Voyager, which I'm going to get to here in a minute, and trying to tune into different shortwave radio broadcasts. Now, I'm not exactly really too familiar with all the frequencies that you can receive from. However, as you can see in this next little clip, I was able to actually receive a radio broadcast from like 6,000 miles away. So let's go ahead and jump cut to that. So I got my shortwave radio out here. Right now it's actually tuned in. Let me go ahead and turn it on to battery. Turn the volume up. Let's see if I get her tuned in just right.
They're not willing to play their part, and much more likely to be in quarantine facilities where there is going to be.
Because right now I'm listening to Radio New Zealand. Any idea to how far Radio New Zealand is away from me? Their transmitter is 6,300 miles away. Right now they're talking about something about coronavirus on their radio show. So I'm going to turn that down. But I know that this station exists. They actually have a pretty neat little freaking thing on their website. It's Radio RNZ. RNZ New Zealand. Radio New Zealand, obviously. And they got a neat little list on their frequencies. Now, I'm in northern Utah, so that's kind of interesting. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying with an air conditioner and a really staticky radio. But anyhow, let's go ahead and let's see if we can find any other stations. Actually, I'm just going to tune it really quickly. Because there's one right about here. See if I can get it in there. Now this right here is an actual time station. If you actually have any idea of what those are. I'm not exactly sure what they're used for. Probably put something in text on the screen describing that. But it'll sit there and do this, and then periodically you'll have a guy come in and talk. If I go any lower, it'll probably go to a Spanish station any lower on the band. By the way, I'm on shortwave 1. Found a Spanish station. Glad to hear they're still broadcasting. I think that's from Radio Mexico. I could be wrong on that. There should be a religious station somewhere around this area. You can listen to this guy sit and ramble on for hours and hours and hours and barely understand a fucking thing he says, regardless of what receiver you're using. Every once in a while, if you play your cards right, one of these religious stations will broadcast InfoWars. There's the same screaming guy. Back to Radio New Zealand. And if you go to 10 megahertz, it doesn't come in as clearly. But there's also another time station. They got one at freaking 10, 5, 15, and I think 25 megahertz. Oh, that's enough of you being annoyed by that, but yet, just letting you know, shortwave radio is not dead. So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of a clip that I recorded last night on my cell phone, because I used my cell phone because it had a light on it. Because this camera right here sucks at filming at night, and all I have is a little carabiner light on it. But that's a story for another day, or not really a story at all. It's just how I set it up. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you that I was kind of really surprised that I was able to receive the radio broadcast from that far at all, because, well, jump. All right, even though I'm not in a favorable light, but considering the fact that, well, the sun's in that direction. This is where I was broadcasting from, just from the hood of my car. Where actually receiving from was just right on the hood of my car. But part of the thing is that you get a lot of electrical interference and whatnot. Like you can see over there, got some nice high power transmission lines, air conditioners, obviously, as I made a reference to. But The interesting thing to me is that, well, I'm facing to the east right now. New Zealand's in roughly that direction. Also, if you want to see me do something with this boat, go ahead and let me know in the comment section. But yeah, I mean, like, this is just a little Kato Voyager, a little solar crank radio, kind of nice. But yeah, let me go back to the studio, since I was just going to show you that a little bit. You know, Wi-Fi signals and whatnot can freaking affect shortwave radio broadcasts as well, which I can't actually receive shortwave radio in my house, so that's a thing. Anyhow, jump cut. All right, there's one thing I didn't mention right there, which is probably something I should have mentioned, is that it's really hard to receive shortwave radio broadcasts in the United States during the day, especially in an urban area, because you have this thing known as the medium wave band, otherwise known as AM, and at night they have to turn their transmitter towers down to, I think, like 500 watts or something, which is more than powerful enough to cover most of the area that they would cover during the day. And it has to do with atmospheric conditions and all that stuff, because late at night freaking radio signals can actually bounce off the atmosphere and travel quite far. You know, if you know this kind of stuff, it's actually pretty interesting stuff. I don't fully understand it myself, but it has something to do with like the ionosphere or something, of which you can actually, there was actually military experiments on it to, you know, knock out radio communications from the other side of the planet with a high atmosphere like nuclear explosion to put a freaking EMP wave or some shit. But yeah, no, I mean, like, my biggest problem with trying to get shortwave radio is the freaking bleed over from, you get a little bit of it from FM, but I've noticed that when the AM stations are blasting, I generally will get like 1 or 2 of them over all the bands on the radio, and like during the day you want to be in the higher bands, I think above 13 freaking megahertz or 1300 kilohertz, whatever the fuck you want to figure that out, and then that night it's below that, which is what I was doing. But the fact that I was able to receive Radio New Zealand clear here in northern Utah, with all the mountain ranges, all the things that the radio signal would have to hop over to get here, to me was kind of surprising. I was really happy about that. And you might be like saying, well, why does shortwave radio still exist? And it's because there's the uninhabited world, or not the uninhabited world, but there's very rural areas in the world where AM and FM just won't cut it, and so if you use a relatively low power and relatively inexpensive way of broadcasting radio, such as shortwave, you can reach people in very rural areas with very little technology. It's neat stuff. I find it fascinating. Other than most of the programming that you'll find on the shortwave band is mostly just religious programming, which I mentioned. I mean, but no, seriously, you can barely understand that one guy as he's sitting there just talking. Hopefully you found this video somewhat entertaining, and you found this kind of good. I mean, like, I was going to do a video on this Kato Voyager, but there's been about 1 million other people that have done it, albeit probably more poorly than I did right there. So yeah, I'm Spaztastic. This is Spaztastic's Unemployment Tube. That's what I'm up to late at night, sticking my aerial up in there and listening to people talk about New Zealand's coronavirus response. Anyhow, thanks for watching.